Imagine this. It is just after 10 p.m. on a cold February night in 2008. The streets of Kafr Sousa, one of Damascus's most exclusive neighborhoods, are quiet. A stocky man in his mid-40s, beard neatly trimmed, steps out of a quiet restaurant after dinner with close associates. He walks alone toward his car, confident, almost relaxed. He has spent decades evading the world's most sophisticated intelligence agencies. He believes the Syrian regime and his Iranian protectors make him untouchable. Then, a flash. A roar that shatters windows blocks away. A precisely engineered explosion rips through the night. The man is gone. Vaporized, only scorched pavement and twisted metal remain. That man was Imad Mughniyeh, Hezbollah's military mastermind. The architect of the 1983 Beirut barracks bombing that killed 241 American Marines and 58 French paratroopers, the man American intelligence once said had killed more U.S. citizens than anyone before 9/11's. And that explosion, it was no accident, was the culmination of one of the most audacious joint operations in the history of modern espionage. Welcome to part 1 of Shadows of Vengeance. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on the hidden war of targeted killings, a campaign that has defined Israel's survival strategy for decades. We will meet the ghosts who haunted Mossad's most wanted list: Imad Mughniyeh of Hezbollah, Mahmoud al-Mabhouh of Hamas, and the man whose death would later electrify the world. We will walk step by step through the reconnaissance, the tradecraft, the razor-thin margins between success and international catastrophe. And we will ask the hard questions every serious student of history must face. When does a nation have the right or the duty to strike first? Is a bullet in the dark justice, or simply another link in an endless chain of blood? If you're watching this from Tel Aviv, from Beirut, from Dubai, from Washington, or from anywhere in between, drop a comment right now and tell us where you are. These stories cross every border. And if you want the full, unfiltered truth about the shadow wars that still shape our world, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and stay with me until the very end. Because what begins in Damascus in 2008 will lead us by the end of this episode to a cliffhanger that no one saw coming. One that sets the stage for an operation so bold it would strike inside the Islamic Republic of Iran itself. Let's begin at the beginning, the birth of a monster and the birth of a doctrine. To understand why Imad Mughniyeh had to die, you have to go back to the shattered streets of Beirut in 1982. Israel had invaded southern Lebanon to crush the plow after years of cross-border attacks. What they found instead was a power vacuum that Iran quickly filled, with Syrian blessing and Iranian money, weapons, and ideology. A new force coalesced: Hezbollah, the party of God. Born in the crucible of occupation and sectarian civil war, it quickly became the most disciplined, Iranian-funded militia the region had ever seen. Imad Mughniyeh was there from the start. Born in 1962 in the southern Lebanese village of Taya Diba, he joined Yasser Arafat's Fatah as a teenager, fought in the Civil War, and by his early 20s had already earned a reputation for ruthless efficiency. He helped form Hezbollah's External Operations Unit. And then came the attacks that made him a legend and a target. October 23, 1983. 2 truck bombs, one at the U.S. Marine Barracks in Beirut, one at the French paratrooper headquarters. 299 dead in a single morning. Mughniyeh, according to multiple U.S. and Israeli intelligence assessments, was the operational mastermind. He watched through binoculars from a nearby rooftop as the buildings collapsed. He was 21 years old. Over the next 25 years, he would be linked to the kidnapping and murder of CIA Station Chief William Buckley, the 1985 TWA, hijacking the 1992 and 1994 bombings of the Israeli Embassy and Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires, 85 and 29 dead, respectively, and countless rocket attacks on northern Israel. The FBI put him on its most wanted list. The U.S. State Department offered $5 million for information leading to his capture. Israel had been hunting him since the 1990s. Mossad, doctrine of targeted killing, known internally as negative treatment, or simply the red page for the color of the assassination authorization file, had been refined after the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre. Operation Wrath of God showed the world that Israel would reach anywhere to punish those who spilled Jewish blood. But Mughniyeh was different. He was protected. He moved constantly between Lebanon, Syria, and Iran. He used body doubles. He rarely slept in the same bed 2 nights running. How do you kill a ghost? For years, the answer was, you don't. Multiple attempts failed. Then, in the mid-2000s, everything changed. The Long Hunt, how you track a man who trusts no one, according to the Washington Post's explosive 2015 reporting. Based on interviews with former US and Israeli officials, the breakthrough came through painstaking human intelligence and signals intelligence. Mossad and the CIA formed an uneasy but effective partnership. The Americans wanted Mughniyeh for the Marines and Buckley. The Israelis wanted him for decades of attacks on their civilians. By 2007, Mughniyeh was spending more time in Damascus coordinating weapons shipments from Iran to Hezbollah through Syria. Israeli intelligence developed a source deep inside his circle. Former Mossad director Yossi Cohen would later reveal in his memoir that one agent provided daily maps of Mughniyeh's movements, his security detail, even the restaurants he favored. The operation that finally succeeded was a masterpiece of joint tradecraft. The weapon was a sophisticated car bomb, not a vehicle-borne IED parked nearby, but a device hidden inside the spare tire of a vehicle that Mughniyeh himself would walk past. The explosive was shaped to direct the blast outward in a narrow cone, designed to kill only the man walking by while minimizing collateral damage. The detonator was remote, triggered at the exact moment he passed. On the night of February 12, 2008, as Mughniyeh left the restaurant, the signal was sent. The blast was perfect. No one else died. Syrian authorities initially suspected their own regime, or even internal Hezbollah rivals. Hezbollah blamed Israel immediately, but had no proof. For 16 years, Israel maintained official silence. Then, in September 2024, former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who had approved the operation, broke that silence on Israeli television. It was an operation that took place in another country, he said, refusing to give more details but confirming Israeli responsibility. The Washington Post and Newsweek had already revealed the CIA's role. President George W. Bush personally signed off on the hit not once, but twice. The bomb itself, according to former officials, was built and tested in the United States. Mughniyeh's death was a strategic earthquake. Hezbollah lost its most experienced international operator. Iran lost its most trusted link to its Lebanese proxy. Yet the organization survived and swore revenge. The shadow war did not end. It simply evolved. If you're still with me, hit that like button. These stories are rarely told in full, and we're only getting started. From Damascus to Dubai, the Hamas file opens while the world was still digesting Mughniyeh's death. Another name had been sitting on Mossad's red page for 2 decades, Mahmoud al-Mabhouh. Born in 1960 in Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp, Mabhouh joined the Muslim Brotherhood and helped found Hamas's military wing, the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam Brigades. On February 16, 1989, he and an accomplice kidnapped and murdered 2 Israeli soldiers, Avi Sasportes and Ilan Sadnan, whose bodies were found weeks later. Mabhouh fled to Egypt, then Sudan, then Syria, and eventually became one of Hamas's most important international arms procurers. He traveled frequently to Iran, to Sudan, and crucially, to the glittering surveillance-heavy city of Dubai, where he met Iranian and Sudanese contacts to arrange weapons shipments that would later rain down on Israeli towns. By 2009, Mabhouh was 49, careful but not paranoid enough. He traveled without a large security detail, relying on his reputation and the assumption that no one would dare strike in a third country like the UAE, a hub of international business where thousands of Westerners and Arabs mingled every day. Mossad saw opportunity. Operation: the Dubai job tradecraft in the age of CCTV. What happened on January 19th to 20th? 2010 is one of the most thoroughly documented Mossad operations in history. Not because it was perfect, but because Dubai Police Chief Lieutenant General Dahi Khalfan Tamim decided to release almost everything. Mossad deployed at least 27 operatives. Some estimates say more. They arrived on separate flights from Zurich, Rome, Paris, Frankfurt, and other European hubs over a 19-hour period. They carried forged or stolen passports: British, Irish, French, German, Australian. Many of the identities belonged to real Israeli dual citizens living quietly in Israel, a detail that would later cause diplomatic storms. The team was divided into classic roles, the same tradecraft used since the 1970s: spotters and logistics, young couples posing as tourists, checking into hotels near Mabhouhs, surveillance, teams in rental cars, on foot, even posing as tennis players carrying racket bags that almost certainly contained more than rackets. The cleaners, those who would enter the target location first to disable cameras or prepare escape routes. The execution team, two men who would actually enter the hotel room. Mabhouh landed in Dubai at 3:15 p.m. On January 19th, he checked into room 230 at the Al-Bustan, Rotana Hotel near the airport, a five-star business hotel popular with arms dealers and Gulf businessmen. He had no bodyguards. He left the hotel briefly, returned around 8 p.m., and went to his room. The assassins were already inside or entered immediately after. According to Dubai police reconstruction and hotel CCTV, two men in tennis gear followed him onto the elevator. Another pair waited on the floor. They used a sophisticated electronic device to override the door lock. Once inside, they injected Mabhouh with succinylcholine, a muscle relaxant that paralyzes the victim while leaving him conscious. Then they smothered him with a pillow. The entire operation inside the room took minutes. They arranged the body to look like natural death, heart attack, and left. Here is where the tradecraft shines and fails at the same time. The team knew the hotel had extensive CCTV. They wore baseball caps, wigs, and disguises. They changed clothes in public bathrooms, swapped identities, and left the country on different flights within hours. One famous image shows a female operative in a wig and sunglasses walking with her husband. Another shows a man still wearing a latex glove in the elevator, a tiny mistake that would later be seized upon. The next morning, hotel staff found Mabhouh dead. Initial reports said natural causes. Hamas quickly suspected foul play. Then Dubai police went public in a way no one expected. On February 18, 2010, Chief Tamim held a press conference. It is 99%, if not 100%, that Mossad is standing behind the murder, he declared. He released hours of CCTV footage showing the entire team arriving, moving through the airport, entering the hotel, changing disguises. He named 11 suspects, and later, more. He demanded the arrest of Mossad chief Meir Dagan and even Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Interpol issued red notices. The diplomatic fallout was immediate and brutal. Britain, Ireland, France, Germany, and Australia all summoned Israeli ambassadors. Several countries expelled Israeli diplomats. The forged passports were cancelled. Israel's policy of never confirming or denying such operations held firm, but the world had seen the faces. Yet the mission succeeded. Mabhouh was dead. Hamas lost a key weapons smuggler at a time when Iran was pouring rockets and funding into Gaza. And despite the exposure, no Mossad operative was ever arrested. The team vanished back into the shadows. The moral reckoning. When is killing justified? Let us pause here and confront the question that every documentary on this subject must answer honestly. Targeted killing is not new. Every great power has done it. The Americans with drones in Pakistan. And Yemen, the Russians with polonium in London. The British in colonial wars. But Israel has made it a central pillar of national security doctrine because of geography and demography. It faces enemies who openly call for its destruction, who operate from civilian areas, who cannot be arrested in sovereign territory without starting wars. Israeli officials argue, with considerable evidence, that killing Mughniyeh and Mabhouh prevented future attacks that would have cost dozens or hundreds of civilian lives. After key Hamas bomb makers were eliminated in the 1990s and early 2000s, suicide bombings dropped dramatically. The same pattern holds for Hezbollah commanders. Critics, including many in the international human rights community, call it extrajudicial execution, a violation of sovereignty and a dangerous precedent that erodes the rule of law. What happens, they ask, when other states adopt the same logic? When does the list of legitimate targets expand to journalists, politicians, or dissidents? There is no easy answer. History shows both sides. The Lillehammer affair of 1973, when Mossad killed an innocent Moroccan waiter in Norway, mistaking him for a Black September terrorist, remains a cautionary tale of how these operations can go catastrophically wrong, damaging alliances and reputations. Yet the same agency that botched Lillehammer later pulled off Entebbe, the Eichmann capture, and the operations we are discussing tonight. The truth is uncomfortable. In an age of non-state actors who reject every norm of warfare, traditional law enforcement often fails. Israel's leaders have repeatedly chosen the certainty of a bullet over the uncertainty of waiting for the next bus bombing. Cliffhanger: the road to Tehran by 2010. Assad had proven it could strike in the heart of Arab capitals and Gulf financial hubs. Hezbollah and Hamas were bloodied but not broken. Iran continued to arm both. The axis of resistance grew stronger. Then came October 7, 2023, the single deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. Hamas's massacre of 1,200 Israelis and the taking of 250 hostages changed everything. The shadow war went nuclear. And somewhere in the planning rooms of Tel Aviv, a new target rose to the very top of the list. The public face of Hamas, the man who had spent years in Qatar negotiating ceasefires while his fighters prepared the next massacre. Ismail Haniyeh. How do you kill a man inside the Islamic Republic of Iran in a guest house guarded by the Revolutionary Guard? During the inauguration of a new Iranian president. How do you plant a device that will wait patiently for months, then detonate with surgical precision when the target finally lies down to sleep? That, my friends, is the story of part 2. But before we get there, I want to hear from you. Which operation shocked you more, Damascus or Dubai? Do you believe targeted killings save lives in the long run, or only breed more enemies? Comment below. Share this episode with anyone who thinks the Middle East is simple. And if you want the full, uncensored story of how Mossad reached into Tehran itself, the bomb hidden for months, the insiders who may have helped the moment the world realized no one is beyond reach, then subscribe and turn on notifications. Part 2 drops soon, and it will change how you see the entire region. This has been part 1 of Shadows of Vengeance. I'm your narrator. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there, because in this war, the shadows are always watching back. And that, my friends, is exactly the question that kept intelligence analysts awake for months. How do you plant a bomb inside one of the most heavily guarded compounds in Tehran, hide it for 2 full months, and detonating it with surgical precision the moment your target lies down to sleep? All while the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps stands watch just meters away. Welcome to part 2. If you just finished part 1, you already know how we got here, from the streets of Damascus, where Imad Mughniyeh met his end, to the hotel corridors of Dubai, where Mahmoud al-Mabhouh took his last breath. Now the shadow war leaps across borders again, straight into the beating heart of the Islamic Republic itself. This is the operation that proved no fortress is impregnable, no ally too powerful to protect you, and no leader beyond reach when the decision is made at the highest levels in Tel Aviv. If you're joining us for the first time, pause right now. Go back and watch part 1, because everything that follows builds directly on those earlier chapters. and wherever you're watching. From whether it's the hills of Galilee, the cafes of Doha, the streets of New York, or somewhere I haven't even imagined, drop a comment and tell us your location. These stories travel the world. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on notifications and let's dive in. Because what happens next will change the map of the Middle East forever. October 7th, 2023, the war that changed everything. Let's set the stage properly. The date is October 7th, 2023. Hamas fighters pour across the Gaza border in a meticulously planned assault the likes of which Israel had never seen. 1,200 Israelis and foreign nationals slaughtered in their homes, at a music festival, on the roads, babies burned alive, young women raped and paraded, 251 hostages dragged back into Gaza, the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. In Doha, Qatar, where he had lived comfortably for years under the protection of the emirate, Imad Mughniyeh watched the footage on television. According to multiple intelligence reports and his own public statements, he celebrated. He called it a new era. He praised the resistance and framed the massacre as justified payback for decades of occupation. Mughniyeh was not the military commander that was Mohammed Deif and Yahya Sinwar, but as head of Hamas's political bureau since 2017, he was the public face, the fundraiser, the diplomat who kept the money flowing from Iran, Qatar, and Turkey. He was the man who smiled for cameras while his fighters prepared the tunnels and the rockets. Israel's response was immediate and total. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that every Hamas leader, wherever they hid, would be hunted down. Mossad chief David Barnea promised the same patience and reach that followed Munich in 1972. The Red Page files were reopened and updated. At the very top of the new list sat Imad Mughniyeh. But striking him would not be like Dubai. Mughniyeh lived mostly in Qatar, a close U.S. ally that hosted the largest American airbase in the region. Assassinating him there would risk a diplomatic earthquake. So Mossad waited. They watched. They learned his routines. And they waited for the moment he would step into territory where Iran's protection would prove to be an illusion. The long game, planting a bomb 2 months in advance, according to the most detailed reporting from the New York Times, Axios, CNN, and later Israeli television investigations aired in December 2024. The operation began months earlier, in the spring of 2024. Israeli intelligence had known for years that when Mughniyeh visited Tehran, he stayed in the same place, a luxurious IRGC guesthouse in the upscale Sadat Abad neighborhood, inside the heavily secured Nashak compound. It was reserved for VIPs, visiting dignitaries, senior Hamas and Hezbollah figures, Iranian officials. The compound was ringed with guards from the elite Ansar al-Mahdi protection unit, cameras everywhere, electronic sweeps. No one got in or out without layers of approval. But Mossad had done the impossible before. Sources with knowledge of the operation, including Middle Eastern officials and an American intelligence source, told the New York Times that Israeli agents working with local collaborators inside Iran smuggled a sophisticated explosive device into that very guest house approximately 2 months before the strike. The bomb was placed in the specific room Mughniyeh always used, hidden. According to Channel 12's December 2024 expose, inside a pillow on the bed where he would sleep. It was a precision device, small, shaped to direct the blast upward and outward in a lethal cone, minimizing damage to surrounding rooms. Some reports, including Axios citing sources familiar with the matter, described it as high-tech, possibly incorporating elements that allowed remote activation with confirmation. Mossad operatives on the ground in Iran would later trigger it once they received positive visual or signals intelligence that Mughniyeh was inside and settled for the night. Think about the audacity for a moment. This wasn't a drone strike from Israeli airspace. This wasn't a team rushing in and out like Dubai. This was a bomb planted weeks or months ahead, waiting patiently like a coiled snake. While Iranian security conducted their sweeps, while other guests came and went, while the Revolutionary Guard believed the compound was impenetrable, How many times did Iranian technicians walk past that pillow? How many times did Mughniyeh himself lie on that bed during earlier visits without knowing death was literally beneath his head? That level of long-term planning is pure Mossad doctrine, the same patience that tracked Mughniyeh for decades and al-Mabhouh across continents. As one former Israeli intelligence official later put it off the record, "We don't just kill the man. We kill the idea that anyone can hide." The night of the strike, a near catastrophe. July 30th, 2024. Mughniyeh flies into Tehran for the inauguration of reformist President Masoud Pezeshkian. He attends the ceremony, meets Iranian leaders, poses for photos. That night, he is taken to the Neshak guest house, his usual room prepared exactly as always. The operation is greenlit at the highest level. Netanyahu himself, according to multiple reports, personally approved it. The timing is deliberate. Right after the inauguration, a deliberate message that even on Iranian soil, during a moment of national pride, Israel can reach its enemies. Around 1:30 a.m. on July 31st, everything almost unravels. According to the explosive Channel 12 investigation broadcast on December 29, 2024, based on sources who lifted the military censor, the air conditioning unit in Mughniyeh's room suddenly failed. The room grew stifling. Mughniyeh, irritated, left the room to complain to staff. For several tense minutes, the entire plan hung by a thread. If he was moved to another room, the bomb would be useless. If staff decided to switch rooms entirely, months of preparation would evaporate. But the guest house staff, some of whom, according to Iranian arrests that followed, may have included unwitting or compromised collaborators, fixed the AC quickly. Mughniyeh returned to his room, lay down, and settled in for the night. At approximately 2:00 a.m. local time, the signal was sent. The device detonated with perfect precision. The blast killed Mughniyeh instantly and his longtime personal bodyguard, Wassim Abu Shaban, who was in an adjacent area. No one else in the compound was seriously injured. The exterior wall showed a clean hole. The shaped charge had done exactly what it was designed to do. Iranian state media initially claimed a short-range projectile fired from outside. The IRGC later insisted it was a 7-kilogram missile launched from nearby. But the physical evidence, the lack of external impact crater, and the testimony compiled by Western and Israeli journalists told a different story. The New York Times, citing 7 Middle Eastern officials, including 2 Iranians and 1 American, confirmed the pre-planted bomb. Axios reported Mossad agents on Iranian soil handled the final remote detonation after positive confirmation. The Revolutionary Guard launched a massive investigation. Dozens were arrested. Guest house staff, intelligence officers, even senior officials. Heads rolled inside the IRGC. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was reportedly furious. For the Islamic Republic, this was not just the loss of a valuable proxy leader. This was a humiliation on home soil in front of the entire world during a presidential inauguration. Parallel strikes and the widening war. The Mughniyeh operation did not happen in isolation. Just hours earlier, on July 30th, Israel struck in Beirut, killing senior Hezbollah commander Fuad Shur, the man they held responsible for a rocket attack on the Golan Heights that killed 12 children playing soccer. That strike was overt, claimed immediately. It sent a message: we are hitting on multiple fronts simultaneously. Earlier in July, on the 13th, Israel finally eliminated Mohammed Deif, Hamas's shadowy military chief, in a precision airstrike on a compound in Khan Yunis, Gaza. Deif had survived multiple previous attempts, earning the nickname the Cat with 9 lives. His death, combined with Mughniyeh's, decapitated both the military and political leadership of Hamas in a single month. And the campaign did not stop there. In September 2024, Israel killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in a massive bunker-buster strike in Beirut. In October, after a dramatic manhunt through the ruins of Raif, Israeli forces located and killed Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of October 7th, as he emerged from a tunnel fighting to the end with an AK-47 and grenades. Each strike built on the tradecraft and intelligence networks refined over decades. Each one escalated the stakes. Each one forced Iran and its proxies to recalibrate. The geopolitical earthquake. Khamenei's death triggered immediate fallout. Khamenei called it Iran's duty to avenge the blood of the martyr. Iran launched a barrage of nearly 200 ballistic missiles at Israel on October 1, 2024, many intercepted by Israeli, American, and Jordanian defenses. Hezbollah fired thousands more rockets. The region teetered on the edge of all war. Ceasefire talks in Qatar and Egypt, where Khamenei had been the key Hamas interlocutor, collapsed in the immediate aftermath. Qatar's prime minister publicly questioned how mediation could succeed when one side assassinates the negotiator, yet quietly. Some analysts noted that removing Mughniyeh, seen by Israel as an obstacle to any pragmatic deal, may have opened new paths, even as it inflamed passions. Diplomatically, the blowback was fierce but contained. The United Nations condemned the strike as a violation of sovereignty. China and Russia used it to criticize Western double standards, but no government severed ties with Israel. The United States, while urging restraint, continued its ironclad military support. President Biden reportedly told Netanyahu the strike did not help hostage negotiations yet. American officials privately acknowledged the intelligence triumph. Inside Israel, the operation was greeted with quiet satisfaction. Defense Minister Israel Katz would later confirm Israeli responsibility in December 2024, stating simply that the mission had been carried out. Public polls showed strong support for the policy of hunting down October 7th perpetrators. The moral reckoning, justice, or endless cycle. Let us be honest about what this means. Targeted killing inside a third country, especially a nuclear threshold state like Iran, pushes every boundary of international law. Critics argue it is extrajudicial execution, a dangerous precedent that could justify any nation assassinating its enemies abroad. What stops Russia from killing opponents in Paris, or China in Washington? The sovereignty of nations, they say, must be absolute, or chaos reigns. Defenders of the policy point to the unique reality Israel faces. Hamas's charter and actions openly call for Israel's destruction. October 7 proved they mean it. Mughniyeh was not a mere politician. He was the public champion of an organization that embeds military infrastructure in civilian areas, diverts aid to tunnels, and celebrates the murder of civilians. In a world where international courts move slowly and terrorists exploit safe havens, Israel argues that preemptive self-defense sometimes requires a bullet or a bomb before the next massacre. History offers no clean verdict. The same Mossad that eliminated Mughniyeh also once botched the Lilyhammer affair, killing an innocent man. Yet the same agency rescued hostages at Entebbe and brought Adolf Eichmann to justice. Every democracy that has faced existential terrorist threats has eventually adopted similar tools. The United States with its drone program, Britain in Northern Ireland, even France in its colonial wars. The uncomfortable truth is this: in asymmetric warfare against groups that reject every rule, traditional morality collides with survival. Israel has chosen survival. Whether that choice plants the seeds of future generations of fighters is the question that haunts every strategist in Tel Aviv. How Mossad plans. Decades ahead, what strikes observers most is the patience. Mossad does not rush. It cultivates sources inside enemy territory for years. It maps routines. It waits for the perfect alignment of target, technology, and political will. The Mughniyeh bomb sat undetected for 2 months because Israeli intelligence had studied that specific room across multiple previous visits. They knew the patterns. They exploited the one vulnerability no security service can fully close: human routine. This is the same agency that tracked nuclear scientists in Iran, sabotaged centrifuges with the Stuxnet virus, and stole Iran's nuclear archive in a daring 2018 raid. Each success builds institutional knowledge. Each failure, and there have been failures, is studied like sacred text. A factual conclusion where the shadow war stands by early 2026. The results are measurable. Hamas's senior leadership has been gutted. Military commanders, political chiefs, financiers, dozens eliminated. Rocket production in Gaza crippled. Tunnel networks exposed and destroyed. Hezbollah bloodied, its arsenal depleted after a grinding war in Lebanon. Iran exposed as unable to protect even its most valued guests. Yet Hamas survives in fragments. New leaders have emerged. Hostages remain. Gaza lies in ruins. The cycle of hatred deepens with every funeral. The shadow war has achieved tactical victories at enormous strategic and moral cost. It has bought Israel time and deterrence. But true security, the kind where Israeli children grow up without sirens and Palestinian children without occupation, remains elusive. The operations we have chronicled across these two parts, Damascus 2008, Dubai 2010, Tehran 2024, are not the end of the story. They are chapters in a conflict whose roots run centuries deep. Whether future historians will judge them as necessary defense or tragic escalation is for time to decide. But one fact is undeniable. When Israel decides an enemy must pay for Jewish blood. No border, no guard, no fortress has yet proven sufficient to stop them. If this episode left you stunned, if it made you question everything you thought you knew about power and intelligence, then do two things right now. First, comment below. Was the Tehran operation a masterpiece of espionage or a dangerous escalation that risks all-out war? Where are you watching from? Second, share this series with anyone who believes the Middle East can be understood in headlines. All sources: The New York Times, Axios, CNN, Channel 12 investigative reports, Wikipedia compilations of declassified and official statements, statements from Israeli and Iranian officials, and investigative journalism from the Jerusalem Post and others are linked in full in the video description for you to verify every claim. This documentary is created for educational and informational purposes based on historical records and available sources. The channel does not promote political or ideological positions. Thank you for staying with me through both parts of Shadows of Vengeance. I'm your narrator. The shadows continue to move. Stay vigilant, because in this region, the next chapter is always being written in secret.